Reason for the public hearing is the Community Development Block Grant money. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. Amrine.
Here.
Mr. De Leon.
Here.
Mr. Ferrara.
Here.
Mr. Kuhar.
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg. Here. Ms. Schaefer-Bish. Here. Mr. Turner. And Ms. Wallach. Here.
Mr. Sidoti has to be excused. He's going to be a grandfather at some time today.
Oh, that's fun.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion?
Congratulations.
Not to me.
Oh, congratulations. That's our discussion, right?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Go ahead, Bridget.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Tonight is the first of 2 required public hearings for the City of Kent Community Development Block Grant Program. The city receives an annual entitlement from HUD. We have not received word on this year's entitlement, but we anticipate to be around $300,000. The city's program period begins August 1st, 2022, and ends July 31st, 2023. The priorities the city has identified for use of its CDBG block funds include housing for low to moderate income persons, the provision of public services for those in need, and infrastructure projects in low to moderate income residential neighborhoods.
Is there any questions from the audience? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed.
Thank you.
We got a couple of minutes before we go into...
Hey, Gwen, 2 weeks till I'm a grandfather.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't know things? You don't know.
It's a girl.
No.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Audrey Alexandria Amrine.
You got a name and everything.
Hey, they're so organized. They got everything set up, all the clothes in the dresser. They're ready. And then we're going to spend a week or 2 with them.
You've been eating out?
Orville, yeah. So we're going to head to Orville and spend 2 weeks with them. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited. Thanks, yeah. Claudia's over the moon because I told John if she sees a baby, she has to hold the baby. So my daughter-in-law, you can hold this baby all you want. So yeah. Yeah, we're excited. We're excited. And she's huge, so this is going to be a big baby. Big baby.
She's not very big, right?
No. And she's like, I need to have drugs. I said, well, I'm sure. Because Claudia said she had nothing. I mean, she didn't. She had totally natural, both boys. So. Not my daughter-in-law. She didn't like pain.
Oh, I'm surprised.
That's right.
You did. You got a chest full and a head full.
Once again, if anybody needs to talk...
Yeah.
30, I'm going to call to order the regular council meeting of February the 16th. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. Amrine.
Here.
Mr. De Leon.
Here.
Mr. Ferrara.
Here.
Mr. Kuhar. Here. Ms. Rosenberg. Here. Ms. Schaefer-Bish.
Here.
Mr. Turner.
Here.
And Ms. Wallach. Here.
Mr. Sidoti has to be excused.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Mr. Ferrari, you have opening remarks?
I do. This is my first time to get to speak for the new year. I'd like to congratulate our incumbents for their wins in the past election. It's great to work with you guys as well as the mayor. I did do a public service and told the mayor not to bring up fishing shanties in Kent because we'd like to keep him around for a while longer. So, but on those notes of ice and fishing shanties, I would like to make the comment that several weeks ago I guess I would preface it by saying I think our city staff and service department's done an excellent job with snow removal under extremely difficult conditions. Extremely limited manpower, and in light of the storm that we had, I think they've done an excellent job. And I would just have to say, I happened to be in Lake Placid the week after that happened, home of the Winter Olympics, 2 Winter Olympics, and there were people walking around on the road because they weren't able to keep their sidewalks clear enough for people to get around. Their snow removal was worse than Kent's, and I just would have to say that if a city that hosts the Winter Olympics and has a world-class ski area there can't keep their streets clear and their sidewalks clear in a time of a storm, then, I mean, how could we expect our people or our city to do it? And I think that I would just say, instead of expecting the government to do everything for you, take some responsibility, do it yourself, ask your neighbor to do it, and take on some personal accountability and get it done yourself. What the good Lord put on the ground, He's going to take away at some point in time, and it happens once a year. And we just have to learn to get on with it. This would be my 2 cents on that. Thank you for your time, and if you would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion for the minutes of January 19th and February the 2nd.
So moved.
Second by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, and 1 abstention. Okay, communications, public communications. Would clerk read the name, the people that signed in?
The first person is Michael Fiala.
Hold off, you don't have the pulpit yet. While the law does not require council to provide time for the public comment, we have historically invited public to make comment, and we appreciate their input. This is a time when residents and others can comment on matters concerning them. However, we will not engage in any debate, and as President and Council, I reserve the right to end any public comment that is disruptive, embarrassment, harassment, or otherwise objectionable. We ask that you come to the podium and speak into the mic clearly and give your name and address for the record. And if you have your comments on paper, please give them to the clerk for the record.
Good evening. My name is J. Michael Fiala, 325 Highland Avenue here in Kent. I am co-owner of Roll Call Burgers and Fries and Taproot Catering. I'm here to state my concerns with the new food truck ordinance that was authorized with emergency at the January 19 council meeting. I would like to preface my comments with a statement that since initially gathering my thoughts, I've had a phone conversation with Patty Long at the city office. I've talked to Hope this evening. Lots of talking has happened, and so some things are in motion, but I still wanted to put my thoughts out there. While scrolling through Facebook, I came across a post from the Portager proclaiming Kent will make it easier for food trucks to operate. I must admit that I was excited because for 10 years we have operated our food truck business in the city of Kent, and now it will be easier. I thought, great, they're making Kent a food truck friendly city and allowing us to vend on the streets. Progress. I read the article. I read the draft legislation. I texted the mayor. I watched the January 5 council meeting. I texted other Kent food truckers. I watched the January 19th council meeting. With each step, my excitement and optimism waned, until all that was left was disbelief and confusion. This law does not make it easier for food trucks to operate in the city of Kent. It simply makes it easier for the city to deal with food trucks and to be compensated for their time dealing with food trucks. Furthermore, for the 8 to 10 food trucks and mobile food services based in Kent, this amounts in essence to an excise tax on their business. As a food truck business based in the city of Kent, our business already pays for the city services provided to the other businesses or residents in the city. Why do we need to pay an additional fee in order to run our business? After reading through the law several times, I was left with a few questions. If I set up to vend in the parking lot attached to the building I rent on North Water Street, do I need a limited use permit and an inspection? Since I already pay for a food service license through the city of Kent, do I need to pay the part of the inspection fee that would compensate the health department? If, for example, I sell in the city of Cleveland, I need to be inspected by Cleveland Fire Department. Will they recognize Kent Fire Department's fire inspection or vice versa? Will Kent recognize Cleveland Fire Department inspection? Each city has their own fee attached to their fire inspections. Where am I going to find someone to inspect and sign off on my propane system? Seriously, I've been looking for someone for 8 years and have not found that person or company. No one will sign off on someone else's work. When do I need a limited use permit? If I set up in 5 different locations weekly within the city, do I need 5 separate limited use permits? If I keep this rotation up through the year, am I paying $300 or am I paying $1,500? Who is this law targeting? Is the law fixing the problem that it was meant to solve? I don't know the answer to most of these questions. I feel this law is targeting or maybe more directed at the more transient food vendors and the folks trying to start food truck businesses. Oh no.
Can you wind it up? Your time's almost up.
That's all right. I don't have my second page.
God bless you. You're don't have a second page.
I will submit my comments to the city. In those comments, I listed a few amendments that I thought would be reasonable. And to bring one other point to light real quickly, what this has done is brought the food trucks in Kent together. We had our first meeting of a pseudo food truck association. 4 out of 8 people that were invited, or 8 trucks that were invited, showed up, showed representation. We want to have a common voice. We want to, of course, work with the city, make it safe. None of us want to blow ourselves up. We all want to sell lots of good food. We all want to make money. We don't make a lot of money, but we all want to run a business in the city of Kent. Thank you.
Thank you. Further?
Mr. John Thomas.
Name and address for the record.
Yeah, thank you. John Thomas, 1621 Chadwick Drive. It's been about 44 years since the city last cleared all the city sidewalks of snow during the snow season. A lot's gone on and changed, obviously, since then. Some of us have had our hair changed from black to white, from thick to wispy, but more pertinent to what I'm saying is 1989 we began to pick up recyclables. 1988 the city made a major capital investment so that leaves could be picked up. Not just the leaves that fell from the trees in the right-of-way, but actually leaves that fell on private property that were raked to the lawn strips so they could be picked up by the city. We also have a stormwater utility program, as we all know, which has a few add-ons to that under the category other solid, I think, on our utility bill. And I can only presume what a couple of those things are. But what I'm getting to is that if it's not already, and your clerk has told me, it's very narrowly being discussed by the administration. I'd like to make a public request that the topic of citywide sidewalk snow removal be placed on the appropriate committee's agenda and be discussed in a timely manner in a public forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Further?
Mr. Jeff Crow.
Name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes.
Jeff Crow, 401 Ivan Drive. I operate the Erie Street Kitchen in town, and now managing the Venice Cafe, and have a couple of other properties in town, so lots going on, lots really dedicated to the town and growth, building our business. I'm here supporting Michael and the food truck and food trailer, mobile vending legislation or that you guys are discussing. We do feel like it's an additional fee, additional inspection. We're already inspected 2 or 3 times every time we go out. I have 2 mobile permits that I have to run for a hot dog cart and a trailer, and a permit for the Venice, and a permit for Erie Street. And I'm about to pull another permit for my new Temple Avenue property. So I've mobile, plenty of food service inspections are going on. I know we're well thought of by the health department. That's where they eat at a lot, is at my place. I think we've got a good relationship with the fire department. We're all trying to do what we do right. But money is tight all over. COVID hasn't helped, and we have additional fees already coming at us from the health department, and we've seen increases there. And $300 more for this and $300 more for that adds up. So just want to put in my 2 cents worth. I've spoken to some of you already and expressed these concerns. Just want to do so in person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there further, Amy?
That's it.
Dave, do you have a comment on the
Well,
food truck?
yeah, I mean, I just, please know, and you may remember when you were there, in her presentation, I know Hope said at one point, this is getting something on paper to get it started, and then we will tweak it, and we'll come back to you. And so to some extent, it's encouraging that we're getting feedback because, as they said, for the first time ever, they're now organized. And I know, I'm pretty sure it was Patty in my office said she asked if you would be a liaison to that group. Yeah. And so, as much as I regret the frustration on the side of the food vendors, I just want to assure you that Hope's had conversations, Patty in my office has had conversations, that we will sit with the vendors, Michael, whoever, and begin to try to work through those issues. And Hope's already got a number of things that she's like, well, we're going to change that, we'll change that. And when she says change, it means coming back to you guys to formally adopt a change after we've had an opportunity to kind of do some back and forth. So I don't want you to think that there's some closed door or anything like that. We're absolutely going to work with these guys. And really, we do value, just as it was said, it was, in many respects, this was a stash initiative to, despite how it was translated, to be better to support that part of the industry, because we're seeing more and more places in Kent that may not actually want to have a full kitchen, so they bring in, these guys. And we wanted to be able to, remember originally there was a lot of pushback with the food trucks in the city from the businesses, the restaurants that already owned and paid, for the physical structure. There was a lot of resistance early on, and that's why, if you recall, you limited them, but council voted it, limited it in the public right-of-way to very few spaces. And it was a high enough fee for few spaces that were not ideal spaces by intention, because you wanted to support brick-and-mortar businesses. And what we have said in the course of the last year is, look, this has changed. The market has changed now. There's room for everybody. There's a big enough market that we need to figure out a way
to better incorporate them into the mix and not just say, you can only be in the public right-of-way in these couple of spots for this amount of money. That was the birth of this idea. And a lot of what was done was Hope did the comparison with other cities, try to pick pieces that made sense and try to assemble it. Now, I remember her saying, I'm going to come back to you. So I just want to make sure, before we left this, because we do take their comments seriously, but I do want you to know that those conversations have already started, changes have already started, and they'll continue, and we will come back to you with a more refined document, in the course of the near future. So just be aware of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Not written communications, Amy?
An email from Deborah Douglas notifying council of her resignation from the Board of Zoning Appeals was received and forwarded to council on January 21st, 2022. I think we'll need a motion to accept that.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second by Garrett. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Planning Commission and staff report for the February 1st meeting was received on January 26, 2022, and the Planning Commission and staff report for February 15th meeting was received on February 8th, 2022. The official list of elected officials and notification of filing requirements for the Ohio Ethics Commission was received on January 27th, 2022. A letter from Bridget Susel, Community Development Director, which was sent to the U.S. Census Bureau in regards to a 2020 census count question resolution request for the City of Kent, Ohio, was received on February 1st, 2022. The Standing Rock Cemetery Board meeting agenda for February 10th and the January meeting minutes were received on January 31st. An email from Denise Baba notifying council about the Ohio Loves Transit Week, February 13th through the 20th, was received on February 1st. And the Kent City Health Board meeting agenda for February 8th was received on February 4th. That is all.
Okay, thank you. City Manager's report.
Yeah, I'd like to move items 1 through 10 on the city manager's report.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Turner.
I questioned the number 3 item. How is that structured regarding how we'll proceed? Will Dave be making the city manager be making his first presentation in March, first up?
Let me answer that, Robin, because we've talked about this. We are going to do an overview of what the city has done with the Heart and Soul, number 1, and we're going to build from there.
Okay, so number 1 will be in March, will be...
Well, we were going to do it in
Dave's-
February, but seeing that council
Right.
attendance wasn't the best, we decided to furlough it to March.
Okay.
Am I correct, Mr. Brewer?
That's how I understand it. Yes, sir.
Does that answer your question?
Well, my assumption then would be that the presentation by the petitioners would then fall in April.
I would imagine so.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
All right. All in favor of the city manager's report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Anything further, Mr. Roller?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, under Committee of the Whole, I need a motion to approve the minutes of February 2nd and the action.
Can you separate those, please?
Okay,
I'll move the minutes.
Second.
second. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One abstention.
And
Need,
I'll move the recommendation.
Second.
second by Gwen. Is there any discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. We have one appointment to the Fair Housing Board. Would somebody like to make the motion for the person?
I would move that we approve Reuben Cinsatis, I'm sorry, I said it wrong, to the Fair Housing Board.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Turner. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, need a motion to authorize the draft. And
So moved.
Mike seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-014 entitled with the name?
Draft number 2022-014, a resolution appointing Reuven Cincinnatus to the Fair Housing Board and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Amorine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
And Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Amorine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
And Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2022-014 has passed.
Okay, thank you. That's all there is under Committee of the Whole, Community Development. Mr. Kuhar?
Yes, I would move for the approval of the minutes for the February 2nd, 2022, and the two actions.
Can you please split those?
Yes. And action number 1.
No, the minutes from the actions, please.
Second.
Second by Mike.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One, two abstentions?
Now, do you want the action split?
Yes, please.
Okay. I would move to authorize the number 1 action.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay.
And I would move action 2.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Tracy, you have discussion?
Yeah, at this point in time, I'm gonna vote against the application for the grant funds, because if we can get people interested in renovating the houses, I'd like to go that route. First of all, I know last time we went down this road with the demolition of a house on Lake Street, and once we accept the grant money, it's very hard, I believe, to turn it down. I think it doesn't give us good,
Okay,
good,
so it's not, any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
no.
No. Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-15 in title only?
Draft number 2022-015, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to renew the agreement with the Haymakers Farmers Market for the sub-land lease of a parking lot located north of Summit Street, west of Franklin Avenue, and east of Akron Barbican Cluster Railway Company's main line track, containing .168 acres for the period of April 22nd, 2022 through November 26, 2022, contingent on the continuation of the city's lease with the Akron Barberton Cluster Railway Company for the amount of $1 and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Who seconded? Gwen? Please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Garrett. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
And Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2022-015 has passed.
Okay, thank you. Will the clerk read draft number 2022-16 in title only?
Draft number 2022-016, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to submit the required documentation to the Portage County Land Reutilization Corporation, PCLRC, to secure demolition funding assistance prior to the Ohio Department of Development, ODOD, program submission deadline and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
No.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Suspension.
Adoption.
Go ahead. Move adoption.
Move adoption.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
No.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
And Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Okay, Ordinance 2022-016 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-17 in title only?
Draft 2022-017, an ordinance authorizing the City of Kent to submit a grant application to the Ohio Department of Development, ODOD, for Brownfield Remediation Program grant funding assistance activities, and to accept the grant if awarded and execute the subsequent grant agreement with the corresponding appropriation of funds and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
And Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Move it to
Adoption.
second.
Second by Heidi. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-017 is passed.
Okay, thank you. That's it for community development, streets and sidewalks. Ms. Tracy Wallach, you're gonna have to do this
Yep.
because Roger's not here.
I need a motion to approve the minutes of the February 2nd, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Jack seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Abstain.
same sign. One abstention.
2 abstentions.
2 abstentions. All right.
I need a motion for the actions recommended.
So moved. Second.
Second by Gwen. Is there any discussion on that action? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-018 in title only?
Draft number 2022-018, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to approve a special event application for the Juneteenth Jubilee to be held on Saturday, June 18th, 2022, and the temporary closure of Willow Street and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension. Second.
Second by Gwen. Is there any, call the roll for suspension.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-018 has passed.
Okay, thank you. That's it for Streets and Sidewalks Finance Committee. Mr. DeLeon.
Okay, I'll move the committee meeting February 2nd, 2022.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. One abstention.
2 abstentions.
2 abstentions.
I'll move the
Sorry.
budget and appropriation amendments.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kuhar. Any discussion on the action? All in favor of the action signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-19 in title only?
Draft number 2022-019, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-133, the current appropriation ordinance passed December 15th, 2021, so as to adjust appropriations, transfers, and advances from the various funds of the City of Kent to individual accounts for the current expenses of the city for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension. Second.
Please call the roll on suspension.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-019 is passed.
Okay, the next four ordinances, 1, 2, 3, 4 ordinances are being read on the second reading. You can change that by making our final reading. So, would the clerk read draft number 2022-10 in title only?
Draft number 2022-010, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Kent and the Dispatch Unit, Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council for the period of November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Second by Mike. Call the roll for suspension.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second. For final reading.
Right.
All right. Is that okay with you?
Move adoption.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he said move adoption,
Yep.
final reading.
I
Who seconded it, Mike?
I did, yeah.
Is there any discussion on, seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
And Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2022-010 has passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-11 in title only?
Draft number 2022-011, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Kent and Police Officer Unit, Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, for the period of November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Please call the roll on suspension.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Move final reading.
Second.
Second by Garrett. Is there any discussion on, seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2021-011 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-112 in title only?
Draft number 2022-012, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement between the City of Kent and the Civilian Employee Unit, Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council for the period of November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Mike. Call the roll for suspension.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Final reading.
Final reading.
Final reading, whatever.
Second.
Second by Tracy.
Heidi.
Same.
Oh, Heidi, I'm sorry. Please, any discussion on adopting this? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
And Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2022-012 has passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2022-13 in title only?
Draft number 2022-013, an ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to enter into a settlement agreement between the City of Kent and Matthew Benson for a Bureau of Workers' Compensation claim and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Mike. Call the roll for suspension.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
And Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Move
Final reading.
Second.
John made a motion, Mike seconded it. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, or call the roll, please? Adoption.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
And Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2022-013 is passed.
Okay. That's it for Finance Committee. Is there any unfinished business we need to know? Schaefer?
Yeah, I'm going to call this unfinished business because I think we're kind of working through it as we go over the years. And first of all, I want to thank Mr. Thomas for coming up and bringing up the issue of snow obstructions, especially on sidewalks, and how difficult it is to walk in the city. Secondly, I want to thank Mr. Ferrara for honoring the efforts the city has made, and I think that we are working very hard to clear away a very unusual amount of snow. However, we know we can maybe keep chipping away at this, and people have to do their part. It's really definitely it's not the same thing as other services where you can drive around with a truck sucking up snow or sucking up leaves. It's really quite labor intensive, and it also will cost the city a lot of money to shovel miles and miles and miles of sidewalks. We're already doing the state routes. I'm really proud of our efforts to do that. I know that we've got some ways to go to educate snowplow drivers, and I'd like to work in the future on some initiatives to do some proactive efforts so that our poor code enforcement person doesn't have a literal mountain of snow obstruction tickets to hand out, and people would probably rather be reminded beforehand than have to deal with a fine or, you know, the having to deal with digging out. I just want to say that we do need to keep chipping away at this issue, because this is an issue of walkability, which is an issue of livability. And today I made a few calls myself to some rental property owners in my neighborhood, management companies, and a particular property owner who owns a lot of properties across the city. And I did receive some pretty good feedback. One just came right out and said, "You're absolutely right. I need to do something. My snowblower doesn't kind of broke down." But he also said, "I think I really need to make sure that my tenants are equipped and they know that this is something they need to do." The other company was not quite as thoughtful about responses, but I think they heard me, and I think that we just need to keep it as an issue, that this is something that we do for one another to make our city better. And, you know, I see people that have snow blowers out there doing an entire city block. We need to honor those folks. And it's incumbent upon each of us to do that, to say thank you. Maybe for next winter, we can get together a volunteer corps, or even maybe pay, like, youth to go out and help people that have disabilities or who are elderly and who are concerned about their sidewalks. We can do more. I think we need to put our heads together and work on some solutions, but short of shoveling all the sidewalks. We have done intersections in the past, digging out. That's something that maybe we can chip away at a little bit more, but it is a progression. And I just want to say that I'm proud of the work that we've done so far, and that, you know, we can continue to make this an even better city for walkability. So thank you, everybody, for bringing those issues up.
Mr. Turner? Yeah, to kind of follow up. Actually, I think this is more of a two-tiered issue for us. One of them being, when we're looking at the tertiary roads, those are something I believe that we can sit down and discuss and see how we can better go about, if it's going to be enforcement, identifying properties, and a lot of those are, quite frankly, you can tell in neighborhoods which are rental properties where people aren't, it's not their property. So I think it's going to be difficult to kind of force them. That's going to be more on the property owner. But the bigger issue and concern for me is when we have these events like we had this year, a situation where you've got people pushed out in the street. You just can't continue to kind of ping-pong this thing. We've talked to Melanie. Melanie has been very accessible. She's now identifying and trying to stratify, I guess, exactly. Or we sit down and we do triage about this, where we're looking at the aspects which put our citizenry in greater danger and hazard. And that's when they're pushed out on primary and secondary roads. And how we're able to bring the resources to deal with those. We've already identified the primary and secondary roads are trafficked by students, by seniors, and senior housing, and individuals who have other issues in navigating the sidewalks. When we're able to do that, we can start lining up exactly what we need to do, because there's going to be a cost associated with anything that we do additional. That's going to be the issue. How do we get that to the people who live here, because they're going to be picking up some costs on it, as far as I know. I mean, look, if you can get everybody to get out and start just, being a good neighbor, that's a great thing. But I don't think ultimately that's going to happen. The city has to take responsibility for people who are pushed out of the street. That's a health and safety issue that we have to take ownership of. I'm hopeful that we have to sit down with Melanie, Dave, and discuss exactly what we can do that is more permanent and that does ultimately address the problem. Mr. Thomas right, I mean, those are things that we can look at down the road, doing the entire city and all of that. I'm kind of doubtful that we'll end up doing that, because I think that there's going to be some real overhead associated with it. But there's some things we do have to do, and that I'm hopeful that we won't have another situation where we have another event like this and people are out in the street and somebody gets injured. So that I hope. And so I piggyback on what I was saying. We have to really start addressing this in a more permanent way.
Mr. Kuhlhorn.
Yeah, I've been involved with this too a little bit, and I think council has come through with getting the main roads that the city plows the sidewalks with the snow that's too hard for a human to shovel. And it's just unfortunate, a little disappointed this time that at the same time we get a record snowfall, our equipment breaks down. But I think just the fact that we're getting those main routes, the sidewalks clear, I know it looked wonderful when they finally got things up and running again. And I think those are the main concerns about people being in the road when they start walking down 59 and Water Street. We just have to deal with the other roads as we have to deal with them on the sidewalks. But I think we have done some things, and Mother Nature kind of threw a few cogs in the wheels. But and maybe it's a point where we need a little more equipment or a little better equipment, so that one piece of equipment fails, we've got a backup. But it's not like we're ignoring the problem.
Anybody else?
We can also farm it out.
Okay, let's move on to new business. Any new business? Council members' comments, anybody? Wow. Mayor's comments. My councilman was out of town, but somebody went in the garage and got his snowblower out and did both sides of our street. So I was happy, because I'm a senior citizen. It's harder for me to do it. So you didn't know that? I'm sorry.
I knew you were a senior citizen.
On the other hand, number 2 on the city manager's report, we're talking about the flag. This has been an issue for 4 years maybe, when Hope's cousin came. What was it related?
Oh, yeah.
The one from Canada. How many years ago?
4.
4. All right. We've been getting back and forth on this. I know Heidi said she wanted a squirrel on it. That's a logo of the city business. That'll never happen. I just want to know, what is your direction with this?
Stars, stripes, and trees.
Gwen?
I thought you had a a rendition of the flag that you
We
particularly?
do, and actually, there was a motion to accept it, but then you put it back in committee.
I just put it back in committee to make sure that the public had a chance to view it. It was,
Well, I'm waiting for the view. I mean,
Let's make it available.
can you make it available for the public to see?
it's been all over Facebook and everything else. I don't know.
Well, from the city, like in minutes or in...
Well, we'll talk about it in March, but please come prepared to discuss it this time.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, the only, I hadn't, it was a meeting that I missed, and then in watching the meeting on video, YouTube, the flag was, there wasn't an opportunity to see the flag before it was voted on. That was my only concern,
Well, you
was that it
weren't
was
here.
something that wasn't, well, I mean, other residents weren't able to see it either. It wasn't accessible before the vote.
Pardon?
Put it on the screen.
We can do that. All right, I just want you,
Just so it's...
we're going to
so
make a
visible.
decision come March.
I think that sounds great. I'm
I
looking
mean,
forward to it.
2 years, you guys been nitpicking at this, either do it or forget it.
I dig it. Let's
I
go.
will
right.
definitely have a copy available for everyone to see before the meeting.
That'd be great, thanks.
We'll have it on the screen. I have no more comments. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, I move an executive session to discuss employee evaluation.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We need a roll
Roll
call.
call.
I'm sorry, we need a roll call.
That's okay. Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar? Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Hey, you don't
Mr.
have to
Turner?
stay.
Ms. Wallet?
It's up to you. All right. I need to clear the room. All I need is counsel here.